The discovery. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council wasn't just unprecedented, it was nearly apocalyptic in its implications. High Counselor Mitra, who had indeed chosen her name after binge-watching Earth's action movies, struck her 4 gavels simultaneously, each impact echoing through the crystal chamber like a death knell. "We are gathered here," she announced, her voice carrying the weight of a civilization's worth of concern, to discuss what may be the greatest threat to galactic peace since the Quantum Wars, humanity's defense protocols. The assembled representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Representative Blurp of the Gelatinous Confederation was literally melting with anxiety, his translucent form slowly puddling beneath his hovering platform. "Preposterous," he bubbled, surface tension barely maintaining his shape. "Their latest orbital platform has 17 redundant systems. It's madness." Junior Analyst Zor, a being whose evolution had apparently decided that eyes were so useful they deserved to cover 60% of available body surface, activated the central hologram. The image that materialized showed what appeared to be a simple human colony on the outer rim. Simple, that is, until Zor began peeling back the layers. "What you're seeing," Zor explained, his many eyes blinking in synchronized nervousness, "is their baseline civilian defense grid. Note the emphasis on civilian. This isn't even their military infrastructure." The hologram zoomed in on what appeared to be an ordinary weather monitoring satellite. As the assembly watched, the satellite unfolded like an origami nightmare, revealing weapon systems that made several of the more militant species present feel decidedly inadequate. "The humans call this comprehensive coverage," Zor continued. "Each layer of defense is designed to counter a different type of threat. The fascinating part is how they've integrated these systems into everyday objects." The hologram shifted to street level. What appeared to be ordinary garden gnomes revealed themselves to be part of an interconnected defense network. Park benches contained shield generators. Even the decorative fountains in the town square concealed enough firepower to level a small moon. "But surely," Ambassador Crick interjected, his ceremonial neck frills finally cooperating, "this must be their maximum security protocol." Zor's many eyes blinked in what could only be described as hysterical amusement. This is their level 1 protocol." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Representative Blurp completely losing molecular cohesion. "Level 1. High Counselor Mitra's voice cracked. "There are more levels. 10, to be precise," Zor confirmed. "We attempted to access information about the higher levels, but..." He paused, mandibles clicking nervously. "The attempt triggered 7 different counterintelligence measures, 2 diplomatic incidents, and somehow subscribed our entire intelligence department to something called cat facts." The council erupted into chaos. The methane-breathing delegates expressed their horror through elaborate chemical emissions. The crystalline species began stress fracturing. Even the normally unflappable energy beings were flickering in distress. "Order!" Mitra thundered, all 4 gavels working overtime. "We must maintain composure. What we need is understanding. Why do humans feel the need for such excessive preparation?" A small voice from the back of the chamber caught everyone's attention. It belonged to Dr. Nine, a renowned xenopsychologist who had spent decades studying human behavior. "I believe," Nine began, their bioluminescent patterns pulsing thoughtfully, "we're asking the wrong question. The real question isn't why humans are so paranoid. It's why they think this level of defense is normal." The hologram shifted again, showing historical data from Earth. Thousands of years of conflicts, invasions, and surprises had shaped human psychology in ways that made other species' minds hurt. "Humans have a saying," Nine continued. "Better to have it and not need it, than need it and not have it." They've applied this philosophy to planetary defense with the same enthusiasm they apply to collecting emergency supplies or backing up their data. "But the resources required," someone protested, "are insignificant compared to the peace of mind it gives them," Nine finished. "And here's the truly terrifying part," they're constantly improving these systems. Not because they expect to use them, but because they enjoy the engineering challenge. The council chamber fell into contemplative silence, broken only by the gentle splashing of Representative Blurp trying to pull himself together. Finally, High Counselor Mitra spoke. We need to establish a new committee. One dedicated to understanding and monitoring human defense protocols. Not because they're a threat, but because if we don't understand their defensive mindset, we'll never truly understand humanity itself. The motion passed unanimously, though several representatives abstained by virtue of being temporarily incapacitated by existential dread. As the council adjourned, Dr. Ix made one final observation that would haunt the delegates for cycles to come: just remember, everything we've discovered about their defenses? That's only what they want us to know about. The council's new Human Defense Protocol Understanding Committee would have its work cut out for it. Especially since their first meeting room had already started offering them cookies and tactical advice. Field Research. Captain Thrax of the notorious pirate vessel, Profit Margins, had thought it would be an easy score. A small human colony on the edges of settled space, perfect target. Their intel suggested minimal defenses, just a few orbital satellites and standard planetary shields. Nothing his crew of seasoned raiders couldn't handle. What the intel failed to mention was that minimal defenses meant something very different to humans. Begin approach vector, Thrax commanded, mandibles clicking with anticipation. Scanning for defensive measures. His sensor operator, a particularly clever Vurian named Skitch, chittered nervously. Captain, I'm detecting something odd. Odd how? Well, those satellites, they're not just satellites. They're transforming. The bridge crew watched in collective horror as the seemingly innocuous weather monitoring satellites unfolded like deadly metal flowers, revealing weapon systems that definitely weren't listed in any official documentation. Evasive maneuvers. Thrax barked, but it was already too late. The first layer of defense wasn't designed to destroy. Oh no, that would have been too simple. Instead, their ship's engines were suddenly filled with something the humans called silly putty, a substance that their science officer would later describe as an unholy amalgamation of non-Newtonian fluid and pure spite. They've deployed some kind of foam, Skitch reported, confusion evident in all three of his voices. And now the foam is hardening. And playing music? Indeed, the human defense system had not only immobilized the pirate vessel but was also broadcasting "Never Gonna Give You Up" by Rick Astley on all frequencies. Push through it. Thrax commanded. Activate the phase drives. They managed to slip past the first layer of defense, only to face what could only be described as a choreographed dance of autonomous defense platforms. These platforms weren't just shooting at them, they were actively predicting and blocking every possible escape route while simultaneously updating their social media status. "Sir," his communications officer whispered in horror, "we're trending on human Twitter." But that wasn't even the worst part. As they attempted to descend to the planet's surface, the minimal, planetary shields turned out to be just the appetizer. The atmosphere itself seemed to turn against them, with swarms of microscopic drones forming elaborate defensive patterns that their tactical officer swore were spelling out "LOL" in the sky. "Who puts antimatter generators in their street lamps?" screamed the science officer as they narrowly avoided what appeared to be a perfectly normal suburban neighborhood that just happened to house enough firepower to level a small moon. The final straw came when they attempted to land in what seemed to be an empty field. The ground beneath them literally opened up, revealing what their sensors insisted was both a massive defense battery and somehow a fully operational coffee shop. "Sir," Skitch reported, his voice trembling, "they're offering us a 2-for-1 deal on lattes if we surrender peacefully." Unknown to Thrax and his crew, their entire misadventure was being monitored by the newly formed Human Defense Protocol Understanding Committee. Dr. Nina's holographic form flickered slightly as they observed the pirates' attempts to penetrate the colony's defenses. "Fascinating," they noted. "The humans have integrated their defense systems with their hospitality industry. The psychological warfare implications are remarkable. High Counselor Mitra, watching from her heavily fortified office, which now featured several recently acquired garden gnomes, could only shake her head. Are we certain this is still just level 1? Oh, yes, confirmed Junior Analyst Zor, his many eyes tracking multiple data streams simultaneously. In fact, this particular colony is running what the humans call a light version of level 1. Apparently, they're on a budget. The committee watched as Captain Thrax, his ships covered in rapidly hardening foam and his systems thoroughly compromised, made the only sensible decision: full retreat. And, maybe get me one of those lattes to go. As the pirates limped away from the human colony, their data analyst discovered a message embedded in the foam: "Thank you for testing level 1 colonial defense protocols. Would you like to subscribe to our newsletter for updates on levels 2 to 10? The message was followed by a winky face emoji, which somehow made it infinitely more terrifying. The integration is remarkable, Dr. Nine observed. Every defensive measure serves multiple purposes. The foam isn't just an immobilizing agent, it's also a data collection system, a communication platform, and apparently, a marketing tool. But why? Asked Representative Blurp, who had finally managed to maintain a stable form by encasing himself in a reinforced containment field. Why go to such lengths for a small colony? Because, Dr. IX explained, their bioluminescence pulsing thoughtfully, humans don't think in terms of enough defense. They think in terms of interesting ways to add more layers. The committee's attention was drawn to a new development in the colony. The coffee shop that had emerged from the hidden bunker was now offering a Pirate's Remorse special, a quadruple shot espresso with extra foam. Are they making fun of the pirates? Mitra asked incredulously. Humans appear to have weaponized humor itself, Dr. IX confirmed. Their defensive strategy isn't just about protecting their colonies, it's about making any potential aggressor reconsider their life choices while simultaneously entertaining the civilian population. The committee spent the next several cycles analyzing the incident, each new discovery more bewildering than the last. The garden gnomes in the colony had not only coordinated the defense response but had also composed a ballad about it, which was now topping the charts in 3 sectors. The hardening foam turned out to be biodegradable and would eventually decompose into fertilizer. Even the Rick Astley broadcast had been carefully chosen for maximum psychological impact. I think, Dr. Nine concluded, we need to radically revise our understanding of human defense philosophy. This isn't just about protection, it's about creating systems so absurdly comprehensive that they transcend their original purpose and become something entirely new. And what would you call this new paradigm? Mitra asked. Dr. Nine's bioluminescent patterns formed what could only be described as a resigned smile. The humans already have a name for it: Overkill. The committee members nodded sagely, while in the background, their meeting room's newly installed coffee machine began humming a suspiciously familiar tune. None of them had the courage to ask where it came from, but the coffee was excellent, and the tactical advice it dispensed along with each cup was surprisingly insightful. Justified paranoia. It started with a sneeze. Well, technically it started with diplomatic observer Squish forgetting to update their biological containment protocols while visiting the human colony of New Providence. One tiny sneeze, not even a particularly impressive one by Squish's gelatinous species standards, and everything went sideways. The first warning came from the colony's atmospheric monitoring system, which detected the foreign particles before they hit the ground. Within nanoseconds, the colony's integrated defense network, the same one that had so recently repelled Captain Thrax's pirates, sprang into action with an efficiency that would have made the Human Defense Protocol Understanding Committee's collective head spin. Biological Containment Protocol Omega-7 initiated, announced the colony's AI, its voice remarkably cheerful for something implementing doomsday procedures. Please remain calm and proceed to your designated safety zones. Complimentary hazmat suits and cookies will be provided. Squish watched in horror as their innocent diplomatic sneeze triggered what appeared to be the entire colony transforming itself. Streets began to reconfigure, buildings sealed themselves, and those infamous garden gnomes started deploying what looked suspiciously like portable quarantine fields. "Oh dear," Squish burbled, their translucent form rippling with embarrassment. "I do apologize for the inconvenience." "No worries," chirped their human guide, Maria Chen, already zipping up her hazmat suit. "This is why we have protocols. Would you prefer chocolate chip or oatmeal raisin?" Before Squish could respond, the committee's emergency monitoring systems lit up like a supernova. Dr. IX, who had been enjoying their daily tactical latte, nearly short-circuited their holographic projector. This is impossible," they stuttered, their bioluminescence flickering erratically. "The particle structure of diplomatic observer Squish's sneeze, it matches theoretical models of the ancient plague." The ancient plague, a bioweapon so terrible that its mere mention was forbidden in most civilized systems. Created eons ago by a long-vanished species, it had wiped out entire civilizations before mysteriously disappearing. And now, through an absurd cosmic coincidence, it had resurfaces in a single diplomatic sneeze. High Counselor Mitra immediately called an emergency session, but the humans were already several steps ahead. "Fascinating," Dr. Nine observed, watching the colony's response. "Their paranoid defense systems aren't just identifying the threat, they're actively adapting to it. Those garden gnomes are reconfiguring their quantum matrices to generate targeted antiviral fields." Representative Blurp, who had finally mastered the art of maintaining solid form during crises, wobbled incredulously. "Are you saying their excessive defensive preparations are actually justified?" "More than justified," Zor chimed in, his many eyes wide with amazement. "Look at these readings. The colony's coffee shops aren't just dispensing lattes anymore, they're producing nanite-infused beverages that strengthen the immune system. Those ridiculous backup systems for their backup systems. They're creating a multi-layered quarantine that's actually containing the ancient plague." The committee watched in awe as New Providence's defenses proved that human paranoia had been right all along. The ancient plague, which had once devastated star empires, found itself stymied by garden ornaments, over-engineered infrastructure, and baristas with advanced degrees in quantum biology. Level 1 defensive protocols insufficient for current threat level, the colony's AI announced cheerfully. Upgrading to Level 2. Please note that this will include the deployment of time-locked quarantine fields, probability manipulation grids, and limited reality restructuring. Also, today's coffee special is a quantum mocha with extra-dimensional foam. Dr. Nina's holographic form flickered with excitement. "They're actually doing it, they're letting us see Level 2. The transformation was spectacular. The colony didn't just adapt, it evolved. Streets rearranged themselves into mathematical patterns that somehow disrupted the plague's molecular structure. Buildings began phase-shifting to create overlapping layers of quarantine. Even the infamous garden gnomes transcended their usual capabilities, forming a network that bent probability itself to contain the threat. This is why," Dr. Nine breathed, their bioluminescence pulsing with revelation. "This is why humans build such excessive defenses. They don't just prepare for known threats, they prepare for impossible ones. And sometimes, the impossible happens." In the colony, diplomatic observer Squish found themselves being escorted to a containment chamber that was somehow also a 5-star hotel suite. "We do apologize for the confinement," Maria said through her hazmat suit, "but we believe in making our emergency protocols as comfortable as possible. The minibar is fully stocked, and the quantum entertainment system gets channels from 3 different probability streams." The ancient plague, meanwhile, was having a very bad day. Every attempt it made to spread was met with another layer of increasingly improbable defenses. It tried to mutate, only to find that the colony's garden gnomes had already calculated and countered its next 1,000 potential variations. It attempted to go dormant, but the nanite-infused coffee kept it active and vulnerable to treatment. In the committee's observation room, the members watched with a mixture of awe and vindication as humanity's excessive preparation paid off. The same defenses that had seemed absurd when repelling pirates were now literally saving civilization from an ancient terror. "We need to completely revise our assessment," Mitra declared. "Their paranoia isn't a quirk, it's a survival strategy. And it works." Dr. IX nodded, their holographic form stabilizing as they reached a profound conclusion. "Humans don't just prepare for the worst, they prepare for things even worse than that. And sometimes, just sometimes, those preparations make all the difference." As if to punctuate their point, New Providence's AI made another announcement: ancient plague containment at 99.9%. Beginning final purge. Please note that today's dinner special is Plague Begone pasta with quantum-stabilized garlic bread. Also, the gift shop is now offering commemorative t-shirts. The committee members exchanged looks. They had finally understood something fundamental about humanity. What seemed like paranoid overkill to the rest of the galaxy was, perhaps, exactly the right level of preparation after all. And somewhere in the colony, a garden gnome winked. Galaxy-wide implementation. The Galactic Council's emergency session following the New Providence incident set records for attendance. Even the notoriously reclusive Quantum Collective sent representatives, their probability matrices fluctuating with unusual concern. High Counselor Mitra stood before the assembled species, all four arms gripping her podium. "The evidence is irrefutable. Human defensive protocols, which we once dismissed as paranoid excess, have contained a threat that once destroyed civilizations. We must adapt." Representative Blurp, now encased in a human-designed containment suit that doubled as a luxury spa, raised a gelatinous pseudopod. "We've already begun implementing their basic designs. The garden gnomes are surprisingly effective." "The gnomes are just the beginning," Dr. Nina's hologram flickered into view, their bioluminescence patterns showing excitement. "Humanity has agreed to share their Level 2 protocols with us, with some conditions." The conditions, as it turned out, were uniquely human. Each species had to contribute their own innovations to the defensive network. It wasn't enough to simply copy human designs, they had to embrace the philosophy behind them. The results were spectacular. The Crystalline Confederation adapted human redundancy protocols to their cities, creating structures that could rebuild themselves while simultaneously serving as massive computational arrays. Their capital world now boasted architecture that doubled as both planetary shield generator and galaxy's largest pipe organ. The Gelatinous Confederation, inspired by human, silly putty, weapons, developed defensive systems that could literally absorb and redirect energy attacks while playing synchronized light shows. Their new planetary defense stations were indistinguishable from abstract art installations, until they activated. Even the methane-breathing gaseous alliance got into the spirit, turning their atmospheric processors into a complex defense grid that could repel invasions while generating pleasant scents. Their latest innovation was a system that could stop antimatter weapons while producing artisanal cheese, somehow. "The humans call this productive paranoia," Dr. Nine explained to the committee. "Every defense must serve multiple functions, preferably including at least one that seems completely absurd until it saves everyone's lives." The integration wasn't without its challenges. The Quantum Collective's attempt to implement probability-manipulating garden gnomes resulted in a 3-day period where everything in their sector tasted like strawberries. The Crystalline Confederation's first attempt at a coffee shop-based defense grid accidentally created a new form of music that made humans cry tears of joy and caused silicon-based life forms to spontaneously tap dance. But it was working. The galaxy was becoming more secure, not through fear or overwhelming force, but through increasingly clever implementations of what humans called just-in-case thinking. "The most remarkable aspect," Zor reported, his many eyes blinking in sequence, "is how the humans keep finding ways to improve even our improvements. They've taken the Crystalline Confederation's musical shield generators and somehow integrated them with their own defense systems. Now their colonies can repel attacks while performing what they call sick beats." The committee's observation room had evolved as well. Their tactical advice dispensing coffee machine had merged with a gelatinous Confederation defense console, creating a system that could predict threats while making perfect lattes and offering life coaching. Nobody was quite sure how the life coaching part happened, but the advice was surprisingly good. Representative Blurp, who had become something of a human defense enthusiast, demonstrated their species' latest innovation, a planetary shield system disguised as a public art installation that could trap attackers in pocket dimensions while teaching them interpretive dance. The humans have a saying, High Counselor Mitra addressed the council. Necessity is the mother of invention. But they've taught us something even more important. Paranoia is the mother of preparation, and preparation, properly implemented, can look an awful lot like progress. The meeting room's newly installed quantum defense monitor chose that moment to serve perfectly temperature-regulated beverages to everyone present, while simultaneously preventing 3 potential timeline incursions and teaching a master class in classical poetry. Dr. Nina's hologram smiled. Perhaps the most important thing we've learned from humans isn't just how to defend ourselves, it's how to make our defenses part of who we are, how to turn paranoia into innovation, and how to face the unknown with both preparation and style. Also, added Representative Blurp, these garden gnomes make excellent conversation partners. Mine has been helping me understand human philosophy while coordinating our sector's defense grid and teaching me to juggle. As if in response, garden gnomes across the galaxy winked in perfect synchronization, their quantum-enhanced networks humming with the sound of civilization learning to protect itself in increasingly improbable ways. And somewhere in the vast network of human-inspired defenses, a coffee machine computed the probability of future threats while perfecting its recipe for quantum-stabilized espresso, proving that the best defense might just be a good cup of coffee, with enough backups to survive a supernova. The ultimate test. The ancient plague had a sibling, and it was angry. Deep in uncharted space, a dormant bioweapon stirred, awakened by the death throes of its twin. What emerged was something that had evolved beyond its original programming, a threat that made its predecessor look like a common cold. Captain Thrax, now reformed and working as a defense consultant, the coffee shop's loyalty program had been surprisingly persuasive, was the first to spot it. Something's wrong with the quantum foam, he reported, his mandibles clicking nervously. It's like space itself is getting sick. The integrated defense network, now a beautiful fusion of human paranoia and alien innovation, lit up across the galaxy. Garden gnomes from 1,000 worlds simultaneously turned to face the threat. Coffee machines began dispensing emergency alerts along with their tactical lattes. The Crystalline Confederation's musical shield generator started playing what humans recognized as the final countdown. Level 2 protocols insufficient, announced New Providence's AI, its cheerful tone unchanged. Initiating Level 3. Dr. Nina's hologram flickered with excitement. Finally, we get to see. They never finished the sentence. Reality itself seemed to hiccup as human colonies across the galaxy transformed. Streets didn't just reconfigure, they rewrote the laws of physics on a local level. Those infamous garden gnomes transcended their physical forms, becoming quantum-entangled nexus points of impossible defense grids. The plague entity struck first at the gelatinous Confederation's homeworld, expecting easy prey. Instead, it found a defense system that absorbed its first attack and turned it into an interpretive dance performance about the importance of proper biological containment protocols. Representative Blurp, watching from their newly quantum-enhanced containment suit, bubbled with pride. The human hybrid defenses are working. Although I'm not sure why my suit is now teaching me salsa dancing. Movement is life, chirped their suit's AI. Also, would you like to know 712 ways to escape a temporal paradox while making the perfect soufflé? The plague entity, faced with defenses that operated on levels it couldn't comprehend, tried to adapt. But for every mutation it attempted, the galaxy's garden gnomes had already calculated and countered 1,000,000 possible variations. The Crystalline Confederation's shield generators played increasingly complex symphonies that somehow disrupted its molecular structure while topping the charts in 3 different sectors. This is what we were preparing for, High Counselor Mitra realized, watching the battle unfold. Not just the threats we knew about, but the ones that were impossible until they weren't. The entity, growing desperate, attempted to breach the quantum barrier between dimensions. It found itself trapped in a pocket universe created by a collaboration between human engineers and the quantum collective, where the laws of physics were replaced with rules from what humans called cartoon logic. Dr. Nina's hologram stabilized long enough to observe, the humans didn't just teach us how to defend ourselves, they taught us how to make our defenses evolve faster than the threats. The final battle took place in orbit around Earth itself, where the entity made one last attempt to strike at the heart of the civilization that had inspired such comprehensive defenses. What it found was a planet that had turned paranoia into an art form. Earth's defense grid activated in full, revealing systems that made New Providence's Level 3 look primitive. Garden gnomes ascended to a higher plane of existence. Coffee shops served drinks that cured temporal paradoxes. The planet's atmosphere transformed into a multidimensional barrier that was simultaneously an art installation, a weather control system, and somehow a really good jazz band. The entity, faced with defenses it couldn't begin to comprehend, did something unexpected: it started laughing. The laughter rippled through spacetime, causing temporary outbreaks of synchronized dancing on 17 worlds. "We got the joke," it transmitted finally. This was the test all along. The truth, when it emerged, was beautifully simple. The ancient plague and its sibling hadn't been weapons at all, they were tools created by a long-vanished species to test if their successors could learn to protect themselves while maintaining their creativity and joy. Only a civilization that could turn garden ornaments into quantum defense nodes while making them fun conversation partners was ever going to survive long-term, the entity explained, its form shifting into something more friendly. "You didn't just pass the test, you redefined it." The galactic community celebrated the way only a civilization with over-engineered defense systems could, with parties that were simultaneously victory celebrations, scientific conferences, and emergency response drills. The garden gnomes performed a synchronized dance routine across 17 dimensions. The crystalline confederation's shield generators played victory symphonies that made flowers grow on barren worlds. Even the methane-breathing species got into the spirit, creating fireworks that smelled like victory, and surprisingly good cheese. So, Representative Blurp asked their garden gnome as the celebrations continued, "What's the next level of defense?" The gnome winked. "Funny you should ask. Have you ever wondered why humans are so insistent on teaching everyone to dance?" As if in response, defense systems across the galaxy began a new upgrade cycle, incorporating art, music, dance, and an impossible number of backup systems for their backup systems. Because if humanity had taught the galaxy anything, it was that the best defense wasn't just about surviving, it was about making survival an art form. And somewhere in the vast network of improbable defenses, a coffee machine calculated the odds of future threats while perfecting its recipe for pandimensional espresso, proving once and for all that paranoia, properly channeled, was just another word for being ready for anything, including joy. The end.